What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Formula America podcast. We're your hosts, Kurt and Dylan, and we've just got to witness the Chinese Grand Prix weekend. Weekend that was full of highs, full of lows, lots of lows.
Lots of lows.
lots of lows. And it was our first sprint race of the season, too. So, man, there's a lot that happened this weekend.
Man, I was sitting down getting ready for this and like writing down my heroes and zeros and like going through it. And I was like, oh, yeah, there's also a sprint race. Forgot about that already.
There was a sprint race that had a shocker of a conclusion. I mean, I didn't see Lewis Hamilton anywhere near being on pole or winning the race.
That was not on my bingo card.
Not at all. After what the Ferraris did in Melbourne, it just seemed like they were off of the pace. And then all of a sudden they come out and they're doing pretty well in the sprint portion.
Yeah. And it was kind of surprising because Lando didn't qualify in SQ2 or SQ sprint quality very well, right? He was down in P6. We had Lewis on pole, Max P2, and Piastri P3. And it was like, this is not the lineup I expected. And it was like, okay, you and I were talking before the race. It was like, Piastri's probably going to blow through this. He's in the McLaren. It's the fastest, and that's what's going to happen. And then, going into turn one of the sprint, Lando got a little bit squirrely. Someone cut in the inside. He was trying to avoid the collision, dropped back to like P10. The front of the grid didn't change, and it was just kind of off to the races. And it's like, okay, that's not how I expected this to start. And then we like settled into the race, and like no one was really changing positions. And it was like, I don't know what to think anymore.
This isn't the way this is supposed to happen. And that's what I loved, because we got to see Max and Lewis on the front row again. And, it's been so long. And then as soon as the race started, I love looking at what happened at this one versus what happened last year when Lando was on the front row. And it happened multiple times. Lando would lose out to Max. Max would bully his way through on turn one all the time.
Every time.
And then as soon as this race started, you got to see Lewis got aggressive and just shut the door on Max. And it's like, that is what you have to do. That is how you have to race him. Lewis has raced Max at the pinnacle for years. So he knows what it's like. And to see that was impressive.
It was great to watch. I think we were all super excited to have Max and Lewis on the front row and be like, what's about to happen?
Yeah.
And Lewis drove a masterclass, as he usually does. Oscar got by Max there towards the end of the race. It's the longest straightaway on the Formula One calendar. And everyone's tires were basically gone, except for the Ferraris. The Ferrari managed their tires a lot better. The McLarens and the Red Bull's tires were graining like crazy, but Oscar got by him. But I was really amazed. Lando didn't really make any inroads in the quali. He finished P8 behind Kimi Antonelli and Yuki Tsunoda. It was like, okay, this is kind of ominous. I thought that the McLarens were going to be way more ominous, and now I don't know what to think anymore.
Yeah, that was definitely strange. But you got to see, like you said about the tires, I feel like Lewis is amazing when it comes to driving at the front in clean air. He did it for so long. And we got to see even Max when he started to catch him for a little bit, but he just couldn't get all the way there. And we know that car is not the fastest. Talking about the Red Bull.
Well, and it was swirly. Every time Max came out of turn 3, it was sliding. I mean, that car looks hard to drive.
Yeah, and Max has to drive it on the absolute ragged edge in order to make it as fast as he is, or as he does. And you can kind of see, speaking about Lawson, the difference in performance between the two drivers in that car is just absolutely astonishing.
Lawson moved up from P20 to, P14 during the sprint race, which, finished behind Isaac Hadjar. I was like, cool. He was making some gains, right? Like that's a good sign. I'm happy for him. And then we get to the real race, and it's like,
yeah. I was thinking that the poor quali was a one-off. Unfortunately for him, it was not a one-off. This guy's now qualified P19, P20, and P20 in the 3 sessions of the season so far.
Getting a little ridiculous. But yeah, Lawson's not done well at all. I will say, I thought Horner did a good job. There's so much speculation already about him being replaced for Japan with Yuki Tsunoda. You've got Max commenting on it, who said he thinks Lawson will be faster in the Racing Bulls because the car is so much easier to drive. There's a lot coming out, but I thought Christian Horner did a phenomenal job not commenting. right? Which is kind of spurring the rumors, but he made it crystal clear he wasn't giving anything away. He kept on just saying, hey, we just finished this weekend. We're going to look at everything. He's young. We've got a duty to look after him. We're going to look at everything. And then they pushed him some more. And he said, let me find the quote. They said, asked if Yuki Tsunoda would be the prime candidate. And Horner stated, I'm not even going to comment on a change because that will be your first headline. Yeah. And so I think he's done a decent job just trying to stop the rumor mill already from Lawson. He's got enough pressure on his back.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, that's the best thing that can happen. Somebody needs to tell Helmut Marko the same thing. Because, I mean, he's always...
Did you see all of the... It was like someone took the leash off of the reporters with Christian Horner this weekend. I was watching some of the interviews. They hammered him on Helmut Marko. They hammered him on Checo. One of the reporters was like, you guys didn't pay Checo off just to have a worse driver in the seat. You could tell Horner was like, dude.
Ted Kravitz, he spilled it. He gave it all. He was like, I'm going for it.
He went for it.
It's funny to see when that happens, because I feel like a lot of the reporters, they will be kind of polite and dance, beat around the bush. But man, Ted Kravitz went straight for the jugular on that one. And it's the question, like, everybody's thinking it. It's like, Checo's gone now, right? You expected to put somebody in that car that was going to perform at least better than Checo. Liam Lawson, what's the statistic? It was the statistical worst start for any Red Bull driver. Somebody else had one on Instagram. It showed that I think his start is worse than Nikita Mazepin's start in Formula One. Oof. Which is just not a good comparison.
No, I do think it is a testament to how hard that car is to drive. They've pushed it to the absolute limit, and it's fast in Max's hands. But, you remember, was it 2 years ago? They did the interview with Alex Albon. He was talking about how they just kept cranking the sensitivity of that car up and cranking it up and cranking it up. And Max loves it. That sensitivity cranked up to 11. Well, that's 2 years ago. And they've just done nothing more than crank up the sensitivity more and more and more. And you got a rookie coming in to sit in that car, one of the hardest, obviously one of the hardest cars to drive on the track right now. And yeah, it's not a good recipe. Like,
I saw a breakdown. I want to say it was Sam Collins, and he said that theoretically, a car that is extremely nose heavy like the front end, like that Red Bull, that is the theoretical fastest way that you can have a Formula One car.
Right.
And now Max has been able, he's one of the few people that is able to, and actually enjoys the car driving like that. And like you said, they've made it so much to the front, or so front heavy now that nobody else can drive it. And even Christian Horner was saying that for rookies or for anybody else, whenever you make the car, you put it on the nose like that, it makes the rear end incredibly unstable. Yep. And so for everybody else, when they get in that car, it's very unsettling with how loose the rear end can be. But for Max, he loves it. And so at what point does Red Bull need to step back and be like, we are a one-horse team? They're only going to be a one-horse team because that's the way Max likes it. Or do you just rely on the fact that Max is a good enough driver where he's adaptable enough where you dial it back just a little bit so that somebody else can then have a reliable chance of scoring points in that second car? I mean, unfortunately, something like that would probably wind up pushing Max out sooner. But I mean, otherwise, you're just conceding to having one car in the race at all times.
Pretty much. I always think back, I was nerding out on, this is a couple of years ago. They were talking about the new generation of cars, and everyone was amazed at the rake angle of the upper wishbones on the Red Bull. The wishbones on the top are like at 45-degree angles. So, in a normal car, they're parallel to the ground. Theirs are 45 degrees. They talked about that was really dangerous. It performed better, but it took all of the feeling out of the brakes because the car doesn't squat when you brake as hard. It keeps it more stable, but you don't have as much of a braking feeling in the car, and how it takes a special kind of driver that's willing to kind of have that lack of feeling. And so I think about, if you kind of start adding all these things together on that Red Bull, right, you can't really feel it braking really well. It turns, the sensitivity on the nose of it is way, way, way up. The back end's super loose. I'm going to put a brand new driver in that 1,000 horsepower go-kart, and good luck. It's no wonder.
I like there was something going around on Instagram where it's like Red Bull needs to put their development budget into cloning Max Verstappen so they could have a good second driver.
Yeah.
It's like at this point, that's all you can do at this point.
But I mean, so at that point, if you're Yuki Tsunoda and you're doing pretty good in that Racing Bull over there, you're like, I don't really know that I want to move up to the, I'm talking to Aston Martin right now. This Racing Bull's pretty fast. I'm pretty happy here, actually.
Dude, that second seat, man, it's a career killer. And I saw a headline, and I didn't actually read an interview where he said that, but somebody saying that they asked Yuki about it, and Yuki was like, yeah, I could do it. And Jolyon Palmer was even talking about it. It's like all the drivers bet on themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have to. I could be that one. The way I look at it is like that Red Bull car is like the really hot chick that's just batshit crazy. And you're just like, oh, I could fix her. And then like you get with her and she completely ruins your life. That's the Red Bull car.
That's exactly what it is. It's like the perfect analogy at this point. But I mean, I think, going down the line of that with all the rookies, I mean, look at Behrman this weekend. Look at Hadjar this weekend. Kimi Antonelli this weekend. How good those other cars are. Where, I mean, they're racing.
They are. Man, speaking of Behrman,
ciao.
What about the Haas? Yeah, ciao. The Haas was after what happened last week, where the Haas like qualified horribly. The race went horrible for them. Like, I remember I was like, I thought the Haas was going to be good this season, and all of a sudden they're the slowest car. But then this week they come out and it's like
double points,
completely new car. Like, where did this come from?
Yeah,
good for them.
Yeah, that was awesome. It's super fun watching Behrman making passes and having a great time. We didn't see a whole lot of Kimi Antonelli on the TV, but just kind of like George Russell, he was just there, racking up the points. Poor Hadjar and Tsunoda were crushing it in terms of race pace and where they were, and the strategy just hosed them. And then Yuki's car just said, "Fuck it, I'm out."
Yeah, and that's one thing. Another thing, like again, it's a Red Bull team where their issue is different. But yeah, that car, by all accounts, is a solid midfield car.
Yeah,
and now I think they're behind Sauber in the points right now.
Yep.
Which is wild because it seemed like they had it in their hands, and then strategy just took both of them out of the race. But yeah, I mean, I don't knock these guys. I think that Hadjar did incredible this weekend. He's super impressive. I know he felt good beating Lawson on the sprint race.
Mm-hmm.
And then Yuki as well. Yuki's been killing it too. And it's just unfortunate that the team has now kind of stripped these points away from them, essentially.
Speaking of strip points, should we talk about Ferrari double DSQ?
Oh my God. That is embarrassing. When I saw that, I assumed that they were both underweight. I didn't realize that they had two completely separate issues where now they're just like, it's like one of them failed weight. The other one was too low. Golly.
Yeah. So Gasly and Leclerc were both underweight when they weighed in coming off the track. They were exactly 800 kilos, which is the bare minimum, but you have to get weighed later without fuel. Your minimum weight is sans fuel. So when they pulled the fuel out, took 2 kilograms out of Leclerc's car and 1.5 kilos out of Gasly's car, they both obviously dropped underneath 800 kilos, and Bob's your uncle, you're done. The funny thing is Alpine said, we screwed up, my bad, we're moving on. Ferrari's fighting. Ferrari's like, that makes that doesn't make any difference on the performance. And Ferrari was pissed off and fighting. And then Lewis's car was too low. They measured the plank underneath the car in 3 separate spots, and in one of the spots it was 0.1 millimeters.
That's Lewis's second time doing that. Well, not his fault, obviously, but last time was Coda, U.S. Grand Prix with Mercedes.
Yeah.
One thing I was thinking about, they said Leclerc was 1 kilogram underweight or something like that.
He is 1.5 or 2 is right around there. Yeah.
And I don't think that it would make a difference, but do they account for missing body pieces? And so like he was missing the end plate. They do account for that? Okay.
Yeah, they were allowed to put a substitute nose on for it to be the whole. Yeah, that was a big question. They answered it. Yeah. Apparently they weighed it twice. I thought it was kind of interesting. They have the end plate. They went and got it. and they put it on the car and weighed it, and then they took the nose cone off and put a replacement full nose cone off just to see if there's a weight difference, and there wasn't. But I thought that was kind of entertaining that they were like, well, hang on. Before you take that nose off, here's the piece. Let's
The guy's like putting his foot on the scale just slightly. He's like, oh, it's good.
But man, him losing that end plate was scary. I can't believe Lewis didn't get a puncture from it. I mean, and I don't think it was anybody's fault. You know, Leclerc went over the curb and went airborne and just slid sideways straight into the back of Lewis's car. Like that was a racing incident if there ever was one.
Yeah.
But he got faster.
I know, that's what's wild. They definitely got lucky that there was not more damage, especially for Lewis's car. But yeah, to think, and I know the commentators were like, oh, you know, maybe it was too much aerodynamic force and that like relieved a little bit of it. But also, I mean, I don't know. I wonder how fast Charles Leclerc would have been if that wouldn't have happened. Because I mean, we never got to see. It was in, you know, the first lap. But yeah, that was for him to lose what they say 20 points of downforce,
20 to 30 points.
I have no frame of reference for what that equates to.
It's
I just
more
know
than
20
zero,
sounds
though.
like a lot. Yeah, 20 sounds like a lot. And so for him to do that and still be faster than Lewis, I know it had to take a toll on Lewis.
Yeah.
But speaking of Lewis, I am so happy Lewis did not win that race. Could you imagine if he won the race and then got stripped afterwards?
Yeah, that would have been bad. Which also, speaking of Lewis, I saw an interview with Fred Vasseur. They were talking about the decision to swap the cars. And how did Lewis take it and blah, blah, blah. And Fred came out and was like, it was Lewis's idea. You media folks should maybe listen to the whole story. And you could tell they were like, wait, what? And he was like, yeah, Leclerc was all over him. He was the one that came over the radio and recommended it. And then he picked up a little pace. And so he didn't want to sacrifice his pace. So it went around the track another time until he found a good spot. But it was Lewis's idea to swap positions.
Yeah.
And it's like, that shines a little bit different color on this than.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it also just shows like, you know, he understands that, you know, he's kind of holding him back. So maybe you're going to swap with cars and see what happens.
Yeah.
But speaking of the radio, I think the radio was one of my favorite parts of this race. Like all the different back and forth. Yuki Tsunoda, when he was like, what did they say? They said, he was like, I want to use more front. And they're like, well, we don't want to. And he's like,
well, I do.
Well, I want to. They're like, okay, do what you want. It's like everybody was so sassy. You had Albon where he was like, I'm good. I'm better than everybody else.
Yeah.
Relax.
He was
just
feeling
awesome.
it.
Leclerc, his engineer came over and was like, try using one lap without the curb. And he's like, nope. I think Leclerc's just done with the engineers. He's like, I'm not playing these games anymore.
Do you blame him? I want to know where Lando Norris's penalty is for dropping an F-bomb on the radio is. 20 grand. Let's do it, FIA. Put your money where your mouth is. Go ahead and start serving up some penalties.
Well, you know what? They can't prove it because they bleeped it out. So you don't know.
They always bleep it out.
And also, last week, he also said, I think he dropped an F-bomb in the cooldown room as well.
Yep.
And
that's
so
40,000 and a suspension that is suspended. Suspended suspension. Let's get it, FIA. Come on. I want to start the fireworks.
I think the FIA realized that they drew too hard of a line in the sand, and now
good. Let's play it out now. I want egg on their face.
Yeah, I mean, shit, they had what was it? The rally drivers just
those guys went
on strike basically.
Yeah.
I feel like those rally drivers, like, you don't want the smoke. Not with the rally drivers. The Formula One guys, they're the pompous, like, white gloves. Those rally drivers are scrappy.
Yeah, it's like going into the hockey leagues and trying to make jokes about them. It's like, yeah, I'm going to do that if I were you. So, yeah, it was the race was a little boring. It was a strategic race. It had its ups and downs. It was very strategic. I think we learned a lot. It was a good weekend. I think that the McLaren is still the fastest package, but it's not like the RB19 fast, right? It's not blitzing the field by 20, 30 seconds. I think Oscar Piastri ran a phenomenal race. Ice in his veins from pole to P1. Crushed it.
Oscar Piastri staked his claim for a championship fight. He basically was like, I am not going down without a fight, and I am excited for where this year goes because Lando, with as much of how they were talking on the radio, like, oh, we're gonna remain behind, keep our tires good, and then at the end of the race we'll make a run for it. I don't know if he would have had enough to actually catch him and then pass him on top of that. Catching him, he might have caught him, but getting past him, I don't know.
Well, and then he had the brake failure issue, which will add some pucker factor to anybody.
Golly, yeah, especially when they're like, it's starting to get critical, and then Lando is still going faster, and to the point where he couldn't. If they had one more lap, he would have been out of the race.
Oh, he would have been
there's
dead.
no
And
way.
George would have passed him. George had knocked down 5 seconds on that last lap. And do you blame him? 210 miles an hour bound that back straight to a hairpin turn.
Yeah. When when I push this pedal, am I going to stop?
Yes.
Or am I just yeeting it right into the barrier?
Just like, oh, here we go. Pull a George Russell.
Golly.
Red flag.
Yeah, that's got to be unsettling for sure to question every time you hit the brake. I'm sure he was glad that it was the end of the race. But even so, like, it was awesome to see. Like, I think he understood that, that's the best he could have done. He wasn't like down, he's always like really down when he doesn't win or anything like that. But I think that now, like, he just realized
he was a little bit down, but I think that it wasn't, he ran the best race he could. Yeah. And that was it. I think he left it all on the track. And so while he was a little bit upset that his teammate won or that he didn't win, I don't think he could beat himself up too much. He ran as good of a race as he could.
Yeah, he definitely did. And speaking on George Russell, man, once again,
bro,
he went from Mr. Saturday to Mr. Consistency now, because this guy, again, putting it on the podium, third place, quietly there, just waiting to pick up whatever scraps.
And you know what's hard?
He's
last year the Mercedes was clearly the number 4 car. George did a phenomenal job, Lewis too, of like getting it where it could be to pick up points. But it was definitely not the fastest. Like when you looked at the point spread, they were 100 points behind Red Bull. Like that was clear. This year, I'm still not sure. That Mercedes might be fast. It might be a contender. It's clearly getting outpaced a little bit by the McLarens and not really the Ferraris anymore. But so is Max. So is that Mercedes fast?
Yeah, I mean, that's just one good upgrade away from being right there at the top. And especially when you got somebody driving as consistently as George has. I mean, for the last, it's only 3 races essentially with the sprint. But if he keeps that up, man, again, he's going to be right there fighting for it.
He is. He'll get some more wins out of the season as well. Why don't we jump into our heroes and zeros? We'll probably touch the rest.
Yes, sir. Let's move on to our zeros. That's a long list, I feel like.
You know what? I've only got 3 zeros. So let me go first and you can pick up the ones that I miss. And I've got a long list of heroes, so you can pick your heroes first.
Okay.
My first one is going to be Ferrari. That's the really, really easy button. They did pretty good all weekend. Putting Lewis on the 2-stop strategy was a bit of a gamble. Didn't really cost them anything, but just getting double DSQ like that is embarrassing. And everything else aside, that'll tank a weekend. And now, because of that, they are tied with Williams on points. Ferrari and Williams. Williams is actually technically ahead of them.
Jeez, that's not good.
So yeah, that one's an easy one. The Racing Bull strategy, just swing and a miss. Yuki and Isaac Hadjar, I don't think you could have asked anything else of them this weekend. They did a phenomenal job, and I feel like the team let those guys down a little bit.
Yep.
And lastly, I was thinking about not doing it, but I'm going to do it. Lawson and Red Bull PR kind of all together. While I think Horner did a really good job of not throwing Lawson under the bus, he also didn't come out and say, hey, we're going to support this dude. We're going to help him. We're not going to, he just played it totally neutral. Lawson is clearly floundering in the back. Like now there's rumor mills that they're going to pick up Colapinto and Lawson might be out of F1. Like it's just another one of those, like, really, Red Bull? Really?
Yeah. Again.
Again. Could you try supporting a number 2 driver? Like positive affirmations or something? It's only been 2 races. And it just doesn't look good.
Nope. Yeah, that whole Red Bull thing, it's getting uglier and uglier.
It is.
All right. Is that all your zeros?
Yep.
Okay. My first zero, I would like to go with Alpine. Alpine still has 0 points. They are last in the championship now, behind both Sauber and Racing Bulls. They got Pierre Gasly got DQ'd, so that's a big one. And Jack Doohan, man, it was just going to be Jack until I saw that Gasly got DQ'd, so I put the whole team on here. But Jack Doohan on a weekend, or not just a weekend, in a season where he's in the hot seat. He ends up getting 2 penalties. He almost got another penalty at the end of the race for what was the fight with Hajar?
Yep.
Where he was under investigation, so luckily he didn't get a penalty for that. And for him to be doing this, I know he's fighting hard. He's fighting for his life right now, essentially.
Yep.
But man, you've got Flavio Briatore that's running that team right now, who is not known for his compassion and his understanding. I mean, he's one of the most notorious figures in Formula One. Hell, he was banned from Formula One for basically orchestrating Crashgate, so he's not going to take it easy. And so I think that Doohan just really needs to have clean weekends and not be so scrappy, especially when he's not even in the points. And also on the whole Colapinto thing, going to Red Bull, I don't really see that. I don't see Flavio letting Colapinto out.
No, I don't either. That's too much of a whooping stick against Doohan too. And when Doohan's doing what he is doing, God, it's a lot.
Doohan's doing what he's doing,
man. I wouldn't be letting Colapinto go. Just the fact that the rumors are swirling is always something.
And what's weird is that team has like 4 reserve drivers, which I don't know. I don't know the list. I don't know any of the other reserve drivers aside from Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas, but I don't know any teams that are going to have 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Alpine and Jack Doohan specifically.
That's fair.
And for my other ones, man, I have to do the same. I got to double tap on the whole V-Carb, just taking the points and the results away from their drivers. They've got, back on Isaac Hajar. He's really changed my perception of this kid, over the past 2-3 races, or since
you and I were both not fans of him coming into this.
Yeah, and like I said, all it took was him crying one time and Anthony Hamilton hugging him, and then it's like a positive spotlight on him. But now also you're watching what he's doing. He's actually performing. He's actually really good, and that car's quick too. And Yuki Tsunoda is just doing what Yuki does. And unfortunately, the team has stripped them of any kind of accolades. And like I said, they are now below Sauber in the points.
Yeah.
And the last one, I'll go. I think the Red Bull one is uglier than the Ferrari one.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to put Red Bull back on there. Just the whole thing that you said. It's nasty. I don't like it.
It's gross. All right, who do you got for
heroes? All right, so heroes. First heroes, I want to give it to Haas, man. They turned it around this weekend. Complete 180 after what happened last weekend. Let me pull up the race results. We had Esteban Ocon fifth place. Ollie Behrman came in 8th place. Ollie Behrman was having the time of his life out there. You could tell he was having so much fun. It was like, I love that he did the same swapperoo from the outside to the inside. And each time I'm sure he's just smiling. They had the post-race interview. And as soon as he walked up, Laura Winters was like, ciao. And you can see on his face, he was like, oh shit, how does she know that? And then,
not as good anymore out here. It's kind of embarrassing, actually.
It's like, yes, sir, the radios do work in these cars.
Yes.
So yeah, Haas, good for them. Piastri, man. Piastri killed it. That was an awesome race. I think he really, staked his claim for that championship, and I'm excited to see. I want these 2 guys to take it down to the wire.
I do too.
It's awesome.
I'm here for it. In the past couple of years, Piastri's been clearly behind Lando, not as consistent. He was showing, immense amount of talent and everything, but just needed to work on his consistency in that car. And it's like, all right, well, it's been 2 races, but you're showing more consistency. Like, is this going to be his year? And if you're Oscar Piastri with the giant rule changes going into next year, this is your chance.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like you said, with last year and before, our biggest complaint with Piastri was his tire management over the race distance. That's why he was so good at a sprint, because it didn't matter. But now over the race distance, he was there. So, I mean, it looks like he's gotten that ironed out. I know the McLaren is much easier on his tires than most of the other cars.
Yep.
And so that helps him out a lot too. But man, this is exciting to see. And he's just so just he's the new Iceman. I love
He
it.
is the new Iceman. He doesn't have as good of one-liners as Kimi does, but
yeah, he'll work on that. That'll come later.
Yeah. I don't see him crashing out at Monaco and just taking his race suit off, walking over to his yacht, hopping on it, and having a drink.
That's true. That is a whole nother level of just not giving a damn. They're like, we need you to come back and we got to debrief. No. It's like, you got media obligations. No. My obligations are on this boat.
Send me the fine in the mail.
Yeah, right. And my last one, I'm gonna do it, and this one you could probably debate it. I'm gonna go with Lewis. I thought it was so cool to see the way he handled the sprint, the way to hear when they told him he was on pole, and just that like chuckle, like, really? Are you serious?
Yeah.
And then to see, he took it from lights out all the way to the checkered flag in the sprint race. It was just awesome to see Lewis back on top, especially with the new team. So hopefully we'll get to see more of that throughout the season.
I concur. All right, for mine, I'm going to swap it up a good bit. I've got Williams on there. Double point finish for Williams, right? We have Albon in 7th and Sainz in 10th. They're not quite as up there as Haas is, but we definitely did not expect Williams to be even a remote contender this year. So super excited for those guys. The other thing that just makes me root for Williams is James Vowles. If Williams had a double DSQ or anything like that, the first thing I would have loved to do is run to their Instagram and see James, just stand to about it. And I absolutely love that about Williams. And so seeing them get double points, that makes me really happy. So I'm going to throw one out there that I would historically not do, but to show what a professional I am, I'm going to do it.
I know where this is going.
Lance Stroll.
You got to give it to him, I guess.
The dude had an awesome weekend. He really did really well. Like, just watching the timing board, you're like, God, dog it, Lance, but you're killing it, man. You're doing good. Like,
he went so long on that tire too, and was still there. And I mean, after what he did in Melbourne too, like, I think it was P6 in Melbourne, like, this might be the year of the Stroll, man. It might be the year of the Stroll.
He did.
It's only 2 races in a sprint in, so we'll see.
Yeah,
but
it's going to change. But shout out to Lance. I think he earned it this weekend.
Attaboy.
Man, just the rookies. Behrman, Hadjar, Antonelli. I mean, Bortoletto and Lawson and Doohan were kind of in the back, but we've got 3 rookies that are super fun to watch. I thought Hadjar and Yuki both killed it. Behrman killed it. I think there's just a lot of sleepers in there that did really well. Freaking George Russell on the podium again. I keep seeing that Office meme where it's Dwight and it's a small chick right underneath his elbow, and that's George Russell. It's like, oh shit, there you are again. God, where'd you come from?
That's how he's been driving, man.
Yeah,
that's all he needs to do.
So I'm really happy for those guys.
Yeah, the rookies are killing it. Most of them are doing very good.
Half of them are doing really well.
I honestly, like, Lawson's never really been my favorite, but I just feel bad for him. That's a shitty situation to be put in. He's set up for failure.
He is.
And now we're starting to see that screw getting turned that we've seen before in the past. And we know that when that starts to happen, you can already see where it's heading.
I mean, Nick DeVries, good grief. That took 6 races?
Nick DeVries, Danny Ricciardo, Checo Perez. It's the same thing.
Albon, Gasly.
Here we go again. Yep.
We can keep going probably. Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's get through these predictions real quick.
Yes, sir.
So, sprint. I had Oscar Piastri on pole. I was 1 day off.
Yep. 1 day off. I had Lando Norris on pole. I was all the way off.
The correct answer was Lewis Hamilton.
Didn't know. Had no idea.
Did not have that one on the bingo card. I'm pulling up our scorecard. Wow. All right, this is China. Okay. P3, I had Lando Norris. P2, I had Oscar Piastri. Check.
P2, I had Max Verstappen.
Yeah. I had Max winning the sprint. That was a swing and a miss. Correct answer is Lewis Hamilton.
Oh. We skipped my P3. I had Charles Leclerc on P3.
Yeah. So at least I got P2. For my wild card, I had Williams top 10, which I almost got. Again, I was one day off. Science.
Well, unfortunately, you don't get points for that. My wild card, I had at least 2 rookies outperforming their teammates, of which we had, I believe, Bortoleto and was it Behrman?
Yeah, Behrman beat Ocon. Bortoleto beat Hulkenberg. Hadjar did not beat Yuki, and Kimi did not.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. I got my 2.
You got your 2. Well played. All right, for the race GP, I had Norris on pole.
As did I.
Yeah, correct answer is Piastri, turns out.
Yes, sir.
P3, I had Charles Leclerc. Did not have him DSQing. That was definitely not what I was going for.
P3, I had George Russell, Mr. Consistency.
Well played,
and
sir.
He got for me.
I had Max in P2. Correct answer was Norris.
I had Oscar in P2.
And I had Norris winning it.
So did I.
And to hose me down even further, for my wild card, I was so close. I had Yuki Tsunoda beating Liam Lawson, which he was handedly doing until his front wing decided to leave the chat.
Oh, man. You were almost there. You were right there.
It was there. I was counting. I knew I was going to get that one. I was like, 2 points. Not so much.
I'm not very professional. I don't remember my wild card.
Well, how many points did you get otherwise?
So I got the wild card for the sprint race, and then I got the what I get? George Russell in P3.
So you got 3 points out of the 12 available. I got 1. You are officially beating me for the first time. The total score is 5-4 right now.
I'm the championship leader. I'm Lando Norris.
Yeah, it's probably going to go like Lando's season as well. Anyway.
Hey.
Good
that was a
weekend.
Good one.
We've got Suzuka next, which is everybody's favorite. Gotta love Japan. It's a normal weekend, no sprint. I have no idea who's going to win it.
I don't have any idea who's going to be in that second Red Bull seat. Are the rumors going to be true? I think that would be very premature, but I think that also their patience has run out, and after what happened with Checo, keeping him around for way longer. So I don't know. As all the commentators keep saying, Liam Lawson hasn't driven at China or Melbourne before. He's driven a ton at Suzuka. So I think that would be a better, barometer of where he's at. But also, I think, what was it? Bortoleto or Behrman had never driven in China
and Australia.
So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they do. Apparently, Red Bull has scheduled an emergency meeting. And I just know that I would not want to be Liam Lawson right now, but
yeah,
time will tell.
I do agree with Max saying that he'd probably drive faster and gain more confidence in the Racing Bulls. I think that's a fair statement.
Yep.
I don't know. I would love Yuki to get his shot, but I don't want Yuki to get eaten up either. Like,
yeah, time will tell, but I guess we'll be back in a couple days and we'll come up with some more content to talk about. Probably whatever happens in this Red Bull meeting.
Probably that. All right.
All right. Well, do you have anything else? Oh, also, I would like to say that I am. Where's my fantasy? I think I am in P2 on the fantasy league.
Oh,
no, I'm right behind it. It's Friday, then it's Saturday. It's Friday, then it's Saturday. Has 439 points. I have 423 points. Dylan, where are you?
I'm down there. I'm in 20.
P14.
P14? Oh, I moved up.
P14 with 292 points.
I'm guessing that the DSQ, I checked this before Ferrari got disqualified, so I'm assuming that probably changed things up a good bit. I'm in 14th. Look at that. But you guys doing the Lando Norris DRS is definitely making the game changer. And I was looking at yours. You have McLaren and Lando. That has got to be your entire cost right there.
I changed it up for this race. I took off. I had Racing Bulls and I took them off because I wasn't too. Or no, I think I had Haas. No, Racing Bulls. I took them off. But yeah, in rounding out the podium, we have Providence Racing with 385 points.
He did the double. He did the DRS on Max. Not bad. Didn't do half bad for that. He got a whole bunch of points from Ocon and Behrman too. I might have to start stealing some of his. All right.
All right. Well, I think that's going to be it for this one. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram, Formula_America, and on YouTube as well, Formula America there. But I think that's going to be it for this one. Dylan, unless you have anything else.
That's all I got, Kurt.
Well then, on that note,
stay classy, America.
We'll see you next time.